when you look at Qabun, and if you're familiar with Syria, when you're driving by Qabun, you see it from the highway. You don't see it. Qabun is not there. It does not exist. And when you go to Yarmouk neighborhood, this is a neighborhood that has Syrian Palestinians population. That neighborhood, by the way, had 500,000 Syrian Palestinians. Only one street that's not totally destroyed. The minute you just simply go right or left, you will see total destruction now. So if you take all of these cities in Damascus and you average the destruction between them, Ma'adamiyya is the least. Not to take away from the damage in Ma'adamiyya, by the way, but just talking about numbers. In my opinion, when I did the math, the average is 70% destruction in these cities. Why am I saying these things? It's because we have to realize that, I'm going to talk about sanctions in a second, that this talk about the USAID aid and the sudden halt of that aid, what that means. All US governments, any government has inefficiencies, correct? You decide whether you want to focus on inefficiencies or you want to focus on loss of lives. That decision is yours. If, as an American, known to be the one that the purveyor of truth, the people who stand for the underdogs, the people who like to see ourselves as Americans to making sure that when we step in, we make a difference by halting the aid of USA. Basically, we are systematically starving the Syrian people. Fact. In our organization alone, 3 projects that deliver aid to people have completely stopped. $5.5 million that were destined to be approved, was actually approved, was stopped. That's aid. Speaking politically, this is the soft power for the United States all over the world. Pretty soon you're gonna hear farmers screaming in the US about stopping with this aid because a lot of the product that the USA packages comes from farms here in the United States. And the list goes on and on and on. So people, when they look at this USAID stoppage of the delivery of aid, it's a huge theme. White helmets are affected, SAMS is affected, Syrian Forum is affected, Shafaq is affected. Give me an organization that you like and I'll tell you how many people that they have laid off just because of halting of this aid. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Inefficiencies are different. If we go to the veterans, might as well just stop all the veterans hospitals, right? If we go to Social Security Administration, we might as well stop delivery of all the Social Security checks. Right? Same thing for USAID. 70% of the foreign aid that comes to Syria specifically is funded by USAID, whether USA pays it directly or through other international NGOs like Goal, Save the Children, World Food Program, WHO, and all other international NGOs. So stopping this aid should outrage you. You should be totally outraged, and it is affecting the Syrian people directly. Sanctions. I'm not sure why this panel was focused on sanctions, because the people before me that have covered this a little bit. Do sanctions, are they needed in the past? Yes. Are they now needed? The reality have changed. Sanctions on Syria, they go back as far as 1979, if I'm not mistaken. And there are different types of sanctions. But if we need to continue with these sanctions, and looking at the past, that's not going to do us any good. Because now, saying Assad is not there. Assad managed to create a drug trade through which he financed himself. Do you agree? Yeah. Assad managed to send his crews to all of these damaged cities. I've heard horrible stories from these cities on how these crews, they come in and they actually shrink wrap furnitures and they package the china in kitchens and they separate gold and jewelry as if they have an assembly line before they actually bomb the city. This is how Assad financed himself. So sanctions, it's good when it is targeted at the Assad regime, at specific individuals. But when sanctions are targeted at the central bank, no, that's hurting the people directly. Because you should, and this is what I differ with my dear friend Ghassan. Yes, the work must be, certain work must be done by the current administration in Syria, by the Shura government. But that does not give excuses to the United States to continue with these sanctions, because here we're talking about lives. We're talking about people suffering. And the cause of the suffering of the Syrian people, that is the Assad regime and Iran and its militias, is gone. So the main reason for these sanctions to be there, most of them are no longer there. The cause is not there. Can sanctions be lifted all at once? No. Everything in politics is transactional. It's all retail, right? So should we create priorities? And this is our view as a Syrian Forum on how sanctions should be dealt with. We've designed 3 baskets on how sanctions should be dealt with. And they are being designed with the people focused. How can we get money inside? So we say, oh, the government should train. How should they train? I'm going to give you some examples. I have visited the head of the Damascus University, the head of the medical school, the head of one of the hospitals. I'm not going to claim that I visited more of these. I have visited myself about 6 ministries at various levels. My staff have visited practically all of the ministries. One had mentioned earlier, I think I was hearing it in a podcast somewhere, but 400,000 employees, includes the employees, right? Think with me for a second. And we know that the central bank is empty, correct? Brother Bassam has said that there are assets somewhere. What we're talking about today. To get these assets from somewhere, we need funds, right? So we need to pay some fees, salaries, expertise, and what have you, flights. Don't underestimate these details.
Of course not.
To get those assets that Brother Bassam spoke with, knowing factually that the central bank is empty. Do we agree with that premise? We have to agree with that premise, because if we don't, then we place ourselves in a catch-22 and we will never resolve this argument. So Assad had left us a totally destroyed country. Literally. Ministries basically have no capacity. The treasury has no funds or reserves. And shared with you the statistics about the people, and a country that have complete cities are destroyed. There's no longer one city, Hama. So when we look at the anniversary of December 8th, 10 years from now, we're gonna have to list a lot more cities than just one city when we talk about Hama. This level of destructions have caused half of the population to be displaced. That's 13 million people. Make no mistake about it, folks. So when we talk about what should the Syrian government do, well, they need funding, right? So they need to pay salaries. So in my view, they will ignore those 400,000 fake employees in the Ministry of Communication. First-hand information that I've heard from the minister, he told me 35% of the employees that he cannot find, they have not reported to work. This was almost 6 weeks after they have already practically given amnesty to all of government employees. So we have to realize that things that we ask for, thank you so much, things that we ask for do require funding. The topic of this session is sanction, and sanction is associated with funding. So when we make a claim and we make asks of, well, we're the U.S. government is waiting for action. Well, that's the U.S. government. For a second, as Syrian Americans, we have to play our part. We're not the U.S. government. We love the U.S. government. But we don't have to adopt their narrative. We're supposed to change their narrative. Do you agree? We're meeting here today, by the way, not to clap our hands for our dear President Trump. No. We're meeting so we can influence Trump's decisions. We can influence our senators, influence our congressmen. We're not meeting to simply just tell, oh, thank you so much for doing such a great work. No, their hands right now involved in affecting millions and millions of the lives of the Syrian people because of their insistence on looking at some actions. After we have delivered to them what the world could not deliver to them, we have delivered to them exit of Iran from Syria. Assad is no more. 70% of the Captagon trade has stopped, and they're still waiting for action, and Syrian people are dying. 2 million people, folks, still live in camps. 1,980 camps in the north. Those camps are occupied by 2 million people. Not everybody like Kafr Sousse and Abu Mani and Malki, if you frequent Syria, right? All what you need to do, go to Sahel al-Abbasiyin and turn right. 800 meters and you will see total destruction. This is where you will see Jobar and Qabul. So we have to look at sanctions seriously. We have to look at the issue of debanking seriously, right? We need to have that carte blanche so we can transfer money to our people freely. We don't need that executive at a bank somewhere in the risk compliance department saying, thank you very much for your business. Here is a check of your balance. We are not interested in your business because you're transferring money to Syria. You should take on these issues and talk about them, because starting from debanking, starting from the halt of the USAID, looking into sanctions, all sorts of sanctions. And we don't want to lift sanctions from Assad or foes or these guys. These are bad people. Sanctions should be there, and it should maybe double or. But we're looking at, we need the sanctions lifted on things that will directly affect the Syrian people. Energy, the central bank, the communications, the anything has to do later on, inshallah ta'ala, with early recovery and constructions and what have you. So, and I know I got away from my script totally. If you're interested in some of the technical details, I will simply share with you. But just be aware of that. I'm totally against waiting only for Syrian government, the current Syrian government, to take action. This is basically, I want to put the Syrian government in a catch-22 such a way that they will never be able to get out of this argument, and I'm going to be asking them to do more and more and more and more, and yet the salary of the minister, top salary of the minister, if they receive their salary, between $400 to $600. Just be careful what you ask. The U.S. government is responsible to take some actions. We as Syrians have delivered 3 major gifts in the lowest amount of cost possible, And we have shown an example of how Syrians are truly, truly civilized people. 12 hours and the country was under control. It took Iraq 3 months, by the way, before they had some sort of an order. There were total chaos in the streets of Iraq, and they had a U.S. army there. In Syria, 12 hours, and it was under control. So I wanted to share these thoughts with you, and I kind of went outside of my script, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
This was very sources. The information you provided, a lot of us know it, but the way you put it together, the way you wrapped it all together, really made it very eye-opener, alarming. But you asked the question about why this is, the sanctions. And the earlier discussion was, as you mentioned, the sanctions were placed on the regime, but now they're actually on the people, and this is what they need to do. So what I'm going to do, because in the previous panel, I'll be run out of time, questions were asked, but they were not answered. So I'm going to yield my time to the audience so that they can ask, and we'll make sure that they will have enough time. So please.
This was mindless. Thank you. Speaking. Thank you very much for the thought. So what is wrong? What is wrong of the Syrian government sending their representative around the world to get our fund, to get the funds? Why that's not a good thing? Why that?
Get them a plane and go there.
Why sending Syrian employees of the government around the world to get the fund back into Syria? The 3.7 billion that Sayyid Bassam mentioned. Isn't that good?
It's absolutely good. It doesn't solve the problem.
Yes.
I think the cost of running the government and the cost of the bill right now, the immediate bill, is a lot more than the two numbers that Mr. Bassam has provided.
Yeah.
And are they doing that? Of course they are. They're very trying.
Yeah, we have to do that in parallel with other things.
Absolutely. No. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is, I wanted to. I was afraid that we are minimizing the issue, right? And when you minimize, you think certain things. For example, today in this tour, I have 11 places that I need to visit and talk to people, right? But I can cover my flights, I can cover my hotels. This is almost a luxury for me, right? But can they? Could they have gone to Saudi Arabia without Saudi sending them a plane? No. You understand? I'm writing it down to that level. I'm going to say, yes, the issue is correct. We need the issue of Qasad to be resolved because there is at least 60,000 to 100,000 barrels a day that will solve almost over 70% of our daily problems in Syria. But until then, what do we do?
Yes.
The oil will not resolve the issue of reconstruction totally, but it will give us the OPEX we needed, the operation cost we needed to run a government. That's for sure. So no, I'm not nullifying the issue. I think this issue is much bigger than that.
شكرا كثير سيد غسان، حلو نشيطين موجود أمبولنا. السؤال أنا بعرف إنه نحن ماطرين لحتى نرفع العقوبات عن سوريا، وكمان في نقطة ثانية ما بعد حكى عنها هي الديون الخارجية تبع الدولة السورية، وفي كتير ديون خارجية. بس في نقطة ثانية أنا بعتقد إنه الحكومة تتحمل وزرها، اللي هي إنه الحكومة بسوريا لازم تعتمد على الناس اللي موجودين بسوريا لحتى تقدر تحقق كثير من الشغلات. يعني انت في كثير عندك خبرات وفي موارد داخليه، انا ما بعتقد انه الحكومه عم تستفاد منها، لانه من بعد ما سقط النظام تقريبا كل شيء، كلنا واحد دولة وقفت، يعني كل شيء وقف. لا فيك تحط مصاري من بنك، لا فيك تسحب من البنك، لا فيك تعمل معامله، لا في يعني انه بسوريا كانه عم يحاولوا يرجعوا يبنوا الدوله من الصفر. وسوريا دوله يعني دوله موجوده، انه دولتنا قديمه، ما جديده.
Good question. Look, everybody understand the issue?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
So, but I'll respond in English. Is that okay? No, they are not trying to reinvent the wheel. You have to realize that as the regime withdrew from the government, they've destroyed so many things along the way. So, to restore the passwords for the access to the civil records, that took a while. It took a lot of intelligence. It took a lot of running after people. It took a lot of طبطبة شيء يعني trying to schmooze with people who had this information so they have access to civil records and many things. And they've succeeded in doing that, right? To make you laugh, when I exited Damascus airport, so the guy told me, and he was smiling in a very like a smirky, but he was enjoying it. Apparently, he was looking at the records, my records on his screen. He said, "What have you done to them?" I told him, "I don't know. I'm just a simple guy." He said, "I'm a simple guy too, but what have you done to them?" So he said, "I cannot get to the bottom of the page, so I can just press next." And so they've restored the record. That's a good thing. But it took them about a month and a half to do that. And from one ministry to the other. So the people who have left these ministries in the state, they were not angels either, right? So we always have to say two things. No, I have plenty of evidence. For example, in the Ministry of Ittisalat, first-hand of information, as a Syrian Forum, we are, we have asked to present a plan to restructure the ministry. We have request from the Ministry of Defense, from the Foreign Ministry, we have a member of our team sitting on the investment committee of the Ministry of Economy. So we're working with them, without being affiliated with them, but we feel this is our duty right now to build their capacity. So, Ministry of Communication, listen to this. This is important to counter your point, because what you said is an important question because it's a narrative, but it requires counter. Right? In the Ministry of Communication, so the minister is from STS, his deputy is from STS. The three technical guys, one guy is a Christian. He's an old timer with the ministry. He kept him. And there is a Druze lady, and there's another Dimashqi lady. He said 5 people. We are 5. So there are 2 or 3 existing. They are running the ministry. This is good. This is to mean this is to mean efficiency. So basically, he himself is just monitoring. He's trying his best, but he said 35% are not showing up to work. Can you blame a Sharq administration for 35% of the employees not showing up to work? Can't blame him for that because he gave amnesty from day one. Right?
My God. They must have done something, these guys.
I'm not here to judge anybody. So what I'm saying is, are they recreating the reinventing the wheel? No, I don't think so. They're trying to push this vehicle forward and move it forward. And let me talk this. I've visited these ministries and the colleges and what have you. Guess what the 3 top asks for when I talk with them? One is energy, everywhere. Yes. And solar system, anything so we can keep the lights on. Second, improve infrastructure, meaning labs, TV screens, presentations. The regime has not invested in any of these things that we consider as basics for us. Guess what the third did? Across the board. Training and build capacity.
Could you please repeat the first one?
The first one is energy. Pretty much everywhere you go to hospitals, you go to ministries, any place of public work, how can we get? And by the way, alhamdulillah, the Syrian Forum, we have done an entire workshop on alternative energy, and we have given the new government a gift of tens of professionals from the US and from Europe as an expertise. We put them in one group, and they're now consulting the Ministry of Energy in Syria. This is part of our Syria Need You initiative that we have started. The second one is investment in infrastructure. So in the Syrian Forum right now, we have we have targeted 12 colleges, and we have said that we need $50,000 for each of these colleges just to help them with their computer system, with their labs, and what have you. And third is training and building capacities of individuals, from administrators to managers and what have you. And some of the ministries, I'm not going to mention who, some of the departments are managed by individuals with 6th grade education. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We have to be careful. Look, to me, God knows that I have my own reservations with this government, right? But right now, we can no longer let our ideological differences blind us from now seeing the truth. There's no more Assad's narrative. Now it's all out on the open. He left us with a country that is totally destroyed. That's fact. Now how can we build it up? With this government or maybe with other governments? To me, it's totally irrelevant.
And just to reaffirm your point on the New Corps, the time like the passwords and Mr. Shah, we kind of mentioned, your mic is on, Mike. Sorry, so just to reaffirm the point about the time needed, like the passwords, in our meeting with Mr. Shah back in December, he mentioned that the amount of paper, just like a mountain of papers, you need a full army to be able to, because nothing is digitized. It's not a matter of going in and looking at the record. So we have to keep in mind what is needed to get the company back on track.
And so I go really quick, last question before they can really quick. So it's really a great feeling to be here today and hearing, everybody congratulate us on the free Syria, and that's alhamdulillah, it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the sad thing is that a lot of what we heard today is the obstacles for removing these sanctions. And I really feel as Americans, we have a big responsibility, just like we put these sanctions and we pushed for them. And actually for me, for the last 2 years, I struggled a lot. And every time I talk to family members overseas, it felt really hard because, we knew it was the right thing, but at the same time, it was hurting the people. And now that there's no reason for there to be sanctions, the people are still being hurt tremendously. And I really feel that we have an obligation to whatever we can do to engage, like we are here today, and do any way you can. That includes, using social media. I don't know how much of us, any plans or strategy is in place to use social media, but we can use it, and it's a great tool. And that's just a point. I hope
very, very, very good. That's maybe a good way. Bravo. Okay. So we have to do our part. Sanctions in the past, from the Syrian Forum, we always had a nuanced approach to sanctions. We did not. Our position has never been to a blanket sanctions. We wanted sanctions to be surgical on regime and individuals and the regimes and what have you. But that's behind us now. Now, like you said, we have pushed for these sanctions to be in place, and we have to push 10 times harder to ensure that these sanctions are removed. We cannot hint or suggest that the U.S. does not have responsibility for removing those sanctions. If the U.S. if the U.S. thinks that this administration should do its part and request legal, maybe they should help them. They know how to reach out. Barbara Relief was there in the first few days. They know the address. They know who to reach out to. They've complained for the last 13 years we don't know who to talk to, right? Now there is a single address, right? So as much as we like to blame a newly born administration, right? A baby that's given us 3 gifts that the world struggled with for 13 years and have cost Syria 1 million people who have been killed, right? In 11 days, they have given us this gift. Now, my position is there is a responsibility on the policymakers, on the U.S. administrations to do its part to seize the moment to ensure that Syria will not fall into the trap of being a failed state. Syria will always and will always play a significant role in the stability of the region. The U.S. have to seize the moment and do whatever it can to make sure that happens. And that starts by helping us remove these sanctions gradually, be it, that would be great, but they cannot sit idle and sit on their hands. That would not be acceptable.
So what a better note to close on this than in this one. Ustaz Ghassan was truly an eye-opener. You mentioned that you had some script that maybe we can share, for people who would love to. I can admit, Lord, that would be amazing. And once again, thank you so much. So a warm welcome.